How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Greetings, conversationalists across the fruited plain. I am delighted to have you with me. Yes, I'm back behind the microphone after a whirlwind tour of Washington, D.C. I got to meet the speaker, got to meet my nemesis, Mitch McConnell. We had a very pleasant conversation. Got to hang out with my buddy Chip Roy, the great congressman from Texas, and with Rich McCormick from Georgia, Philip Singleton, the future congressman from Georgia. It was a great time. The phone number here, 877-973-7425, should you wish to be on the program. Delighted to have you. Well, we have tonight the State of the Union address. Only about a third of Americans even know it's tonight. Our tour guide in Washington thought it was yesterday and they were going to close down the House. We were able to meet the speaker. They closed down the House of Representatives at noon today for security sweeps to get ready for tonight's State of the Union address. Senator Britt from Alabama will deliver the Republican response. President Trump says he's going to do a real-time fact check of Joe Biden's speech. I'm kind of surprised the Republicans have not designated Donald Trump to do the State of the Union response. It would have been way more watchable than the State of the Union, and of course the media would be in a huff about it and step away from it. They're getting very good at stepping away from Donald Trump's speeches and, oh, he's going to lie, we can't watch it. Meanwhile, you got them on TV saying what they're saying. I got to play this clip of Joe Scarborough, and I will preface this, don't shoot, don't hate me. I know and like Joe. I've known him for years, since he was a congressman. People forget Joe Scarborough was actually a conservative pro-life congressman from Florida who led the Republican revolt against Newt Gingrich from the right. I say all the time, you're catechized by the people you're surrounded with. When you're on MSNBC and talking to that audience and surrounded with the progressives at MSNBC, I think you do drift over time. I think he's a nice guy. I just happen to disagree with him on a lot of his political analysis of late, particularly the circling the wagons around Joe Biden, where this is kind of the hallmark of what we're going to hear from the media when it comes to how Joe Biden's speech was tonight.
Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever. Not a close second. And I've known him for years. The Brzezinskis have known him for 50 years. If it weren't the truth, I wouldn't say it.
You know, we have grainy. In the age of iPhone cameras that are replacing DSLR cameras, we have iPhone cameras now that they use to shoot commercials with in movies. Apple has done a number of commercials shot on iPhone. They want you to know it. And yet the best we can get, despite the advent of cameras everywhere, digital cameras, all sorts of cameras, in your pocket cameras, the best we can get of Bigfoot is grainy footage, hard to make out footage. Somehow, despite the ubiquitous nature of high-resolution digital cameras in your pocket, the best resolution footage we can get of Bigfoot is grainy and hard to make out. It does raise the question of, are we being scammed? And yet, ladies and gentlemen of the public, we have more footage of Bigfoot than we have of Joe Biden being coherent and in his right faculties. They keep telling us this is the most coherent, intellectually honest, bold, initiative-driven Joe Biden ever, and F you if you can't handle the truth, according to Joe Scarborough, and yet there's no video evidence of it. What the public sees is a human Roomba bouncing back and forth across the stage, unable to get off it. What the public sees is a man who loses his train of thought in the middle of a sentence. What the public sees is an 80-something-year-old who reminds Americans of their grandparents and parents battling dementia. And yet, the media, the propaganda ministers of the regime would have us believe that this Joe Biden is the best Joe Biden. It's a damning indictment of Joe Biden if this Joe Biden is the best Joe Biden, a malleable Joe Biden with Jill Biden's arm up his rectum, moving him like he's a Muppet, sitting him on her shoulder. It's not easy being green. It's not easy being the president, I guess he says, with her moving his mouth. Yep. I mean, he is essentially a Muppet. He is a human Muppet with someone's hand up his backside moving him around. I don't think it's Barack Obama at this point. I think it's Jill Biden. She doesn't want him to leave the White House because she knows all these people, they give up power, they die within a week. And she doesn't want to deal with Hunter Biden without him. And tonight he'll stand on stage at the State of the Union, and he will try to articulate a vision for the public. There's a problem with this. Let me tell you what Joe Biden's vision is going to be. This isn't me speculating. This isn't me speculating. This is actually them. This is actually the Biden White House telling us. Joe Biden intends to make the case that the economy was bad because of Donald Trump, that we should remember what the economy was like in 2020 and how much better it is now. And then he's going to pivot from blaming Donald Trump for making it bad to blaming corporations for not improving it. Shrinkflation. They got Cookie Monster out there. Cookie Monster, yet another Muppet with someone's arm up his backside, banging away on a keyboard, blaming shrinkflation. That's what they're calling it. All the packaging is smaller. And you know, it's true, but it's been done to keep a reasonable price point for consumers despite Bidenomics. I still think it's remarkable, as an aside, that Americans for Prosperity has bought the website Bidenomics. It is just yet another bit of political malpractice from this White House that they themselves did not buy the website Bidenomics after wrapping Joe Biden in the label. But I digress. Here's the problem for Joe Biden. The American public has never blamed Donald Trump for the economic catastrophe of 2020. They never have. They blamed Donald Trump for lockdowns. They blamed him for the way the recovery went. They didn't blame Donald Trump in 2020 for the economic meltdown of the country. They blamed China and a virus from China. For Joe Biden to come out now and say Donald Trump is to blame for the economy, people are going to say, hey, Joe, have you forgotten COVID? The American public has never blamed Donald Trump for that. This is going to be their economic pitch, that Donald Trump ruined the economy, Joe Biden saved it, and now it's the evil corporations of America who are to blame. I don't think the man who left Americans behind in Afghanistan is going to have a plausible path to make this pitch, and yet this is what they want. And then democracy is on the ballot. Oh, they're already trying it. They're already trying it. This is Rachel Maddow on MSNBC and her spin.
And now with the Republican appointees on the courts doing what they have done at the highest court in the land, I really think we need to get clear about the fact that the project of the Republican Party is to install a strongman form of government in the United States and get rid of democracy. And that is the project of electing Donald Trump. And that's what the Republican Party is for now. And so if you have been part of the Republican Party, you have to recognize that that's now the new project of your party. And you may need to leave that party now in order to work with the rest of Americans who disagree with you on a lot of different things, but who want our country to stay a democracy. And that we're just in that extreme a place.
They believe this, by the way. This isn't a spin. This is a rhetoric to get Donald Trump assassinated is what MSNBC is doing. MSNBC at this point is assassination porn for the left, hoping that someone puts a bullet in Donald Trump's head. Every bit of their rhetoric on MSNBC is essentially a call for someone, since the courts won't save them, to stop Donald Trump. It's gross. You know, if Republicans were talking about this with Joe Biden regularly, everyone in the media would call it out as y'all are trying to get Joe Biden assassinated. But when it's Donald Trump, they don't care because they're in on it. They believe that Republican authoritarians are trying to upend democracy, and these are the same people who unilaterally took Donald Trump off the ballot in multiple states to deny the democratic process, and a unanimous Supreme Court told them no, and now you hear them attacking the Supreme Court. A unanimous Supreme Court says you can't do that, and they're worried about Republicans are the authoritarians? The Democrats are using the executive branch of government to, by fiat, impose their will on America, from putting boys in girls' locker rooms to opening the border to illegal aliens who are murdering Americans, and they're worried about Donald Trump. And now they're trying to make this persuasive case. You may not like everything the Democrats stand for, but if you're committed to American democracy, you must side with Joe Biden, who's flooding the border with illegal aliens who are murdering Americans, and who's championing boys and girls sports, denying girls their ability to get their own scholarships in school. And you must stand with Joe Biden, who by fiat is trying to undermine pro-life states. You must stand with Joe Biden, whose attorney general is marching members of the press before with the FBI, who they don't like. You must stand with Joe Biden because democracy is on the ballot. I'm sorry, most Americans, when they sit around the table at night, are not talking about democracy on the ballot. The only people who are the Democrats, who are worried about climate change and democracy on the ballot, and their kids are on Ritalin, Xanax, and marijuana because they're so stressed out because their parents have freaked them out that the country's going to end and the world's going to burn. These are malcontented souls who want you to think that authoritarianism on the ballot. We got an authoritarian in the White House and they refuse to call him out. His party, Joe Biden's party, is the one chanting death to the Jews in the streets. Joe Biden's party is the one trying to pressure Joe Biden to stop helping our Democratic ally in the Middle East, Israel. They have the audacity to try to do this. Democracy is on the ballot. You know, the other day while I was gone, on MSNBC, Jen Psaki, who used to be the White House secretary, they were mocking the voters of Virginia in the exit polling where immigration is the number one issue. They were laughing at the voters of Virginia for making immigration their top issue. These people are in a bubble. Georgia, like Virginia, is not connected to the border in Mexico. And yet, it's a huge issue in large part because a college student's been murdered by an illegal alien. They mock the people of Virginia at their peril. These people are in a bubble. They're in a left-wing bubble. After the Supreme Court on Monday unanimously decided that states did not have the power to keep Donald Trump off the ballot, you had a bunch of progressives pretend it was a Trump court decision. It was the Trump appointees sparing the left, but then in total meltdown that the Supreme Court would do this, that the Supreme Court's not going to save our democracy. I'm sorry, but the voters voting is a democratic process. And you know what? In 4 years, Donald Trump will be gone. And I know lots of progressives who are just, their brains have been rotted by their hatred of Donald Trump. They're, who says he will respect democracy? Who cares? The military, the Congress, the courts, the Secret Service, the states, the governors, the National Guard controlled by the states, they will all care, as will the people in 4 years. It doesn't matter whether Donald Trump cares or not. But what they're ultimately at is they don't respect you. Joe Biden to stand on this stage tonight in the House of Representatives, all eyes on him. The media is already planning their comeback kid strategy. You know, Marjorie Taylor Greene or some idiot Republican is going to stand up and cause a scene, and the media is going to devote disproportionate time to the scene stealer than to Joe Biden's performance with the teleprompter. They're going to do everything they can to rehabilitate him. Joe Biden's going to announce at the State of the Union speech that he's ordered the U.S. military to conduct an emergency mission to establish a temporary port in Gaza that would open up a maritime route for humanitarian assistance. This is coming from Barak Ravid, who's a political reporter for Axios, who's been given a preview of what the president's going to do. He'll announce some substantive policy, but I'll tell you what he's really going to do. He's going to try to frame this as a debate between sanity and insanity and try to claim that his party is the sane party and Republicans are the insane party, that his party's for democracy, Republicans are for authoritarianism, but his party has a man working for the Health and Human Services Department who dresses up as a woman and wants you to recognize they, them pronouns. I'm sorry, the American public has kind of given up on Democrats being the sane party when they are at war with biology and the English language concurrently. Hello there, welcome. It is Eric Erickson. The phone number is 877-973-7425. To answer the number one question I have gotten in the last 72 hours while I've been out, no, I have not seen Dune yet, but I intend to. I promised a buddy of mine I'd go see it with him, promised my son I'd go see it with him, so I'm going to see if I can sweet talk my kid into going to see it this weekend before I go see it with anyone else. I want to see it with my son first. We both loved the first one. I want to go experience it on the big screen with my son before I take anybody else to go see it. Now, I gotta plea. I gotta beg. I really, please, Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, whoever else on the Republican side of things, all the blue British phone booths flying around Doctor Who, please, don't cause a scene at the State of the Union tonight. Please don't do it. You know what's going to happen? The American public is going to witness Joe Biden at war with the English language and a teleprompter at the same time. But if Boebert or Green or Gates or some other Republican stands up and causes a scene, heckles the president, whatever, the media is going to fixate on them. You know the memo's already gone out. They're going to dominate their coverage over people treating the president of the United States disrespectfully, how nasty it is. You need to don't give them the opportunity. They're waiting for you to give them the opportunity. Don't do it. Don't take the bait. Please, for the love of all that is decent and holy, don't do it so we can focus on Joe Biden's performance instead. Speaking of performance, we got this regional banking issue in the country, and it's not going well. The New York Community Bank, now the stock is cratering. People pulling out. They're trying to build up their assets. Too many bonds and loans given to commercial buildings that aren't coming back. There are problems out there with the regional banking sector. Swiss America wants to help you avoid that and the collateral fallout from it, how to protect your hard-earned assets. It's something they specialize in. They want to teach you. You can call them at 800-289-2646. And, in fact, you can find out how to get a great silver dollar from them, a real one, and their report on the war on cash. All you do is call and mention my name, Eric Erickson, at 800-289-2646, 800-289-2646. You can also go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric. That's SwissAmerica.com/ERICK. Message and data rates may apply at 800-289-2646. Talk to Swiss America about protecting your hard-earned assets. Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. I want to speak lovingly, tenderly to you. When I was a kid, I played the trumpet. And one of the songs that I could play very well on the trumpet was Love Me Tender by Elvis Presley. Love me tender, love me. Anyway, I want to speak to you lovingly, tenderly. Kids, Elvis was the singer back in the day before I was born. Michelle Obama has come out and released a statement saying she will not be running for president of the United States and has no desire to be president of the United States. Now, both sides, it's not a Republican phenomenon, it's a people phenomenon. Democrats do this too. Somebody picks up something, it's echoed by somebody else who amplifies it, somebody else amplifies it, and then it takes on a life of its own. For the last number of months on this program and in the real world, I have continually encountered people who have said, what about Michelle Obama? They're going to make her the nominee. And I've tried to gently push back on everybody, but no. So-and-so says, or it's this thing the internet says. I've heard it tied to prominent people from the right, that the rumor is, the speculation is, the people in the know say. And first, I want to start with this. I'm not always right. If I ever thought I was, I have this thing, it's called a wife, who makes sure that I know I'm not always right. And I'm not. I have members of this audience who can pull up something I said 12 years ago on the radio and say, I don't believe anything you say because this one time 12 years ago you said this thing. But yet they still listen. What I try to do, though no one is ever right all the time, what I try to do is never lie to you. I never try to tell you something that is, I know it's not true. And I never try to tell you something I don't actually believe. One of the things that frustrates me about talk radio these days is there are a lot of people in talk radio who want to do a poor impression of Rush Limbaugh and want to tell you what they think you want to hear. And I got to tell you, the American people, my listeners, are great BS detectors, have great BS detectors. And they know when you say something that isn't true. And I'm just stunned by the number of people in talk radio who just want to tell you the things that they think you want to hear. They don't want to have a truthful, honest conversation with you. And one of those things is that, well, you all believe that Michelle Obama is going to be the nominee. Therefore, I'm going to pretend I believe it too. And I have worked very hard to disabuse everyone of the notion that Michelle Obama was going to be the nominee. And I don't think it's a coincidence at all that the same people who were pushing the nonsensical Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce conspiracy theory are the same people who have devoted disproportionate energy to claiming Michelle Obama was going to be the nominee. And it has nothing to do with them believing it and everything to do with their social media clout. They wanted clicks. They wanted traffic. And I don't know who the older, seasoned Americans are listening to. But this has also been a very, almost uniquely seasoned citizen phenomenon. If you have or could potentially have blue hair, you're more likely to believe Michelle Obama was going to be the Democratic nominee than anyone in their 20s and 30s. And I don't know where it's coming from. But the predatory practices of parts of the right-wing movement in this country these days, it's deeply disappointing to see. It's deeply disappointing to see. And all I can do is ask you, I don't expect you to believe me. I don't expect you to think I'm some paragon of truth and virtue. I get things wrong. I do. The other day, I tried to make a pizza in my brand new pizza oven, and it turned into this burn-up amoeba. I don't always get it right in cooking or in what's going on in the world. I make a conscious effort to try, and I don't always get it. So I don't want you to take anything I say as the gospel truth. But I really would encourage you, please, whoever were the voices you've been listening to about Michelle Obama being the Democratic nominee, stop listening to them. Because it's never been a thing. And anyone who knew anything about the behind the scenes of the Democratic Party truthfully knew it was not going to be a thing. And I have enough friends who are prominent people within the Democratic Party, strategists who have assured me there's no way it could be. And as I've outlined on this program, there are a whole lot of Democrats who do not like Barack Obama. They never publicly say it. but they privately blame Barack Obama for Donald Trump. They happen to come from the Joe Biden wing of the Democratic Party. The Joe Biden wing of the Democratic Party truly believes that had Barack Obama thrown his weight behind Joe Biden in 2016, the country would have been spared Donald Trump, that Joe Biden would have been seen as running for Barack Obama's third term. He was popular enough. He could have won it. And instead, he swung for the fences to get Hillary Clinton to go from historic first black president to historic first female president. It was Barack Obama's arrogance that did it. It led to Donald Trump. So none of these people, had Michelle Obama stepped forward and said, you know what, I will stand in Joe Biden's place, none of these people would have allowed it to happen. And this is Joe Biden's team, and they control the process of the delegates. If Joe Biden tomorrow steps down and says, you know what, I'm not going to run, I'm going to open it up, I'll open my delegates up to it, he would make sure behind the scenes they knew no Obamas, none. And by the way, it's not just people in the Biden orbit that are telling me this. It's people in the Obama orbit who are telling me this. The one, Michelle Obama doesn't want it. She didn't like it when she was there. She doesn't like the spotlight. She doesn't want to do it. She likes being a private citizen. And it would be a nasty, nasty fight because there are so many ambitious politicians in the Democratic Party. None of them want an unelected person to stand in line because of her last name. They all want it. They covet the position. They wouldn't allow it to stand. And I've tried to explain this to people. I've tried to say it gingerly and repeatedly. And yet somewhere, somehow, these voices on TikTok and YouTube and other talk radio show hosts and the voices on TV and the cable news, oh, it's going to be Michelle. It's going to be Michelle. Insiders say it's going to be Michelle Obama. It's never, ever was going to be Michelle Obama. It's not that she had a change of heart, and this is the new spin. I'm not wrong. It's just she had a change of heart. No, you've been full of crap the whole time, and you've been willfully lying to people. We have so many people now who don't want to believe the truth. You know why a lot of people want conspiracy theories, by the way? Because they actually think the world, it's got to be more complicated. It can't be a coincidence. It's got to be a conspiracy because that just doesn't make sense in their brain. They can't process a coincidence, and they can't process the easy answer. It's got to be a complicated answer. And then, of course, you're catechized by the people you surround yourself with. So if you're surrounded by a bunch of people who believe the conspiracy theories, you're going inevitably to believe the conspiracy theory. And some of you are saying, but they've all come true. But actually, they haven't, but you've been surrounded with a bunch of people who've told you they haven't, so you believe that too. You've been catechized by the people you surround yourself with. By the way, people getting stuff wrong, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's people get stuff wrong, and a lot of our experts don't have humility to admit they got it wrong. There's no conspiracy theory there. It's just a bunch of arrogant elite who got stuff wrong and don't have the humility to recognize it. That doesn't make what happened a conspiracy theory. The reality is Michelle Obama is not coming to save the Democrats. The reality is we get to live through Biden-Trump 2.0, and you know the additional reality? The odds are very likely that Joe Biden doesn't step aside. He should, but he's not going to. The Democrats instead are going to try to make some moral triumphalist claim about the Democratic Party, that Republicans are authoritarians, that Donald Trump is bad. All of that is baked into the equation. There's this thing that Democrats don't understand, that the Democrats can't process. And it's that the American public knows everything they need to know about Donald Trump. And they still prefer him to Joe Biden. It's not that he's popular, it's that Joe Biden is so unpopular. It's not that they like Donald Trump, it's that they dislike Joe Biden so much. And also, every single person who's voting in the November election is someone who was alive when Donald Trump was president and therefore remembers a good economy. And remembers, as much as they had this existential dread that Donald Trump was going to start a war, we weren't actually in any wars. As much as the Democrats want us to believe that Donald Trump is bringing chaos back, that he's the chaos candidate, we got chaos with Joe Biden. We got a war in Ukraine. We got a war in Israel. We've got a withdrawal from Afghanistan that's emboldened the Taliban. We've got China on the march trying to take back Taiwan. We've got all of these problems in the world. All the chaos the Democrats assured us would happen if Donald Trump was reelected has happened with Joe Biden being reelected. And the arrogance and the lack of humility of the Democrats would have them believe that they can re-echo that Donald Trump's the chaos candidate. Donald Trump can't be the chaos candidate when the world went into chaos when Joe Biden got elected. It's that simple. But in the Democratic bubble, they disagree. Now, I'm going to tell you God's honest truth that you're not going to want to hear, and you're going to get mad at me. You're going to get mad at me. If you text data to 33777, you can read my morning piece. What the Democratic and Republican parties have decided to do is to make Americans choose between the evils of two lessers, not the lesser of two evils, but the evils of two lessers, two inferior candidates for president. There are much better options out there, but we're stuck with the two geriatrics. And the Democrats will say the Republicans are evil, and the Republicans will say the Democrats are evil. We live in a fallen world. They're both a party of sinners who have their own evil policies. The Republicans are the ones who've been funding Planned Parenthood for a very long time. The Democrats, too. Both parties have gotten us headed off a fiscal cliff. Both parties have surrendered our national security. Both parties have been complicit in an open border. Both parties have been complicit in the problems of the United States. And both parties will have us believe that the other party is the problem, the other party is the bad problem, the other party is the evil problem. I think both parties actually have a lot of problems. Both parties are actually terrible parties. Both parties are run by people of low character. Both parties are run by immoral men. The question is not going to be which party is the saint and which party is the sinner. The question is going to be which party is going to save my family and which party is not. And a lot of voters are going to hold their nose and they're going to go vote for Donald Trump because it's not the Republicans putting boys in the girls' bathrooms, and it's not the Republicans letting bad guys out of jail who are murdering college students. It's not the Republicans are not the ones wrecking the stock market. The Republicans are not the ones coming for your 401k. And the Republicans are not the ones ruining the economy. Democrats are going to try to make people feel very bad that if you make this immoral choice by voting for this immoral serial adulterer, you are destroying democracy and bringing about an authoritarian strongman. Most voters don't believe that. They don't like Donald Trump. They think he's an immoral crook. And they don't care because they remember that under Donald Trump, the economy was better, people were working, and the world was not in chaos. And so they will vote for him whether they like him or not because Joe Biden refused to step aside and give the public an opportunity to vet another candidate who might be more decent. And so the public will go with Donald Trump, who will get elected president of the United States in November unless something changes. And can something change? Absolutely. But if the election were held today, Donald Trump would win. That's just the God's honest truth. Now, we're also dealing with the Biden incompetence. I mean, look at Bidenomics. I mentioned this earlier. The Democrats, wrapped Joe Biden up in Bidenomics. They wrapped him in the label. It was a label that was meant to be a pejorative, and the Democrats decided to turn it on its head. We're going to go with Bidenomics. They never bought the website, Bidenomics.com. Americans for Prosperity did. So Americans for Prosperity has built this website to show you just how bad Bidenomics is. Americans for Prosperity has built this website. You can go find out the truth about Bidenomics, find out about inflation, find out about the costs for Americans going up, find out about your cost of living going up, find out about how it's wrecked the home market, find out about how it's caused grocery prices and energy prices to go up, and inflation is still on the march. And even though inflation's going down, it doesn't mean prices are coming down. It just means prices are going up more slowly. They've got all the facts and figures so you can be the smartest person in the room when it comes to knowing how bad Bidenomics is. All you have to do is go to Bidenomics.com, Bidenomics.com. You can tip the hat to Americans for Prosperity who bought this website to educate Americans about the failures of Bidenomics. Bidenomics.com, brought to you by Americans for Prosperity. This hour of the program is brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan. If you're buying a building, building a building, buying a franchise, you need $250,000 or more, First Liberty Building and Loan might be able to help you. They've been making their own lending decisions since the 90s. The Frost family knows how to help businesses grow. They love the opportunity to help your business grow anywhere nationwide. You can reach out to them, firstlibertyga.com. Spend 10 minutes with them. See if you're fit for them and them for you. firstlibertyga.com. Y'all, I got to play you some audio. This ad has come out from Building America's Future. It is a powerful, powerful advertisement, and it drops today in time for the State of the Union address. You need to hear this ad. It's a TV ad, but the audio makes it so I can play it without having to do much narration. It speaks for itself.
Laken Riley should have been able to go on a run in broad daylight without being murdered by an illegal immigrant. But Joe Biden promised not to deport illegal immigrants.
Should that person be deported? That person should not be the focus of deportation.
Biden vowed not to detain illegal immigrants who crossed the border.
No one would be put in jail while waiting for their hearing.
So when Jose Ibarra crossed into America illegally, he was not deported. He was not put in jail. Biden also supported sanctuary cities.
Should undocumented immigrants arrested by local police be turned over to immigration officials?
No.
So when Jose Ibarra was arrested in New York City for endangering a child, he was freed a second time. Ibarra went to Georgia, where he beat Laken Riley to death. How many more killers has Biden set free? Building America's Future is responsible for the content of this advertising.
That's pretty powerful advertising on the number one issue of concern for Americans. Y'all, the Democrats are in such a bubble right now. They hate Donald Trump so badly. They are really convinced that you hate him as much as they do, and you don't. Because you lived through his 4 years of president, and you lived through Joe Biden's. And say what you will about Donald Trump, and I've said much, at least he's more entertaining than Joe Biden, but also didn't wreck the economy. He was a businessman who kind of understood what was good for business. Joe Biden's blaming businesses for having to grapple with his policies. It's a huge deal. It is. And then you got the progressives in his administration and around the country just going off the deep end, which I want to talk about later. But first, when we come back, massive, massive school choice victories in the state of Texas. I want to spend some time on that because, you know, they're still in a couple states, Republicans dragging their feet on school choice. In Texas, huge wins. It's time for other states to put up or shut up on this issue. Given what happened in Texas, the writing is on the wall for the GOP.